Every week I've been doing these things where I pick a different streaming service and I tell you things that are pretty good or good to watch on that streaming service, and I usually have a friend with me, and this time I have SinRam, who's pretty much my Netflix buddy on this stuff because he's good at recommending stuff. We'll get to him later in the show, but you should subscribe to his YouTube channel. It is really great. I think he's doing a Rocky 4 review. I didn't check if that came out. I know he said it was coming out. He's going to do a Rocky 4 review because he's never seen Rocky 4. I'm not sure. Anyway, he should answer that in the comments of this or something. But you should subscribe to his channel. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. But anyway, I'm going to recommend a few things. A few I've probably recommended before. Some I haven't. I try to recommend things if they're kind of like pertinent to what's going on, as well as stuff that I just saw recently that I thought was good. So, yeah. Anyway, so the first thing I want to talk about is with Ratchet coming out, which I sort of watched some of and it didn't look great. I wasn't into it. But if you're hearing a lot about Ratchet and you're like, why would anyone care about this? They probably shouldn't. But One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is on Netflix. That's a great movie. One of the great movies of the 70s. Stars Jack Nicholson, directed by Milos Forman, about him going into an insane asylum. It's a wonderful movie. You should check it out if you never have. It's currently on Netflix. The Sapphires. This is a film about a musical group that went on, USO tours and stuff. It's an Australian film starring Chris O'Dowd. It actually won like their Best Picture and won a lot of awards at their kind of Oscars. It was a big film in Australia. Didn't mean shit over here. I think I filmed a review of it and the sound didn't work way back in the day, and then I never reshot it. But I remember this was like kind of a pleasant, nice little movie. I found it on Netflix. I was a little surprised. I totally forgot about it. But it's just about like a nice, girl group that performed a lot of USO shows and had like a bit of a following. That's what I remember it. I remember it being good. We have A Single Man, which is Tom Ford, the clothing designer, actually directs movies. And I'm a big fan of him as a director, believe it or not. And A Single Man is probably, as far as right now, his masterpiece. It's really wonderful. Starring Colin Firth, right before, I believe, he's having suicidal thoughts and stuff. It's a really interesting film, very beautifully shot and wonderfully styled and everything like that, as a Tom Ford movie should. It's one of my favorites of the past decade. Was it 2009, 2010? I forget. It's just a wonderful movie. Definitely worth a watch there. Then we have the show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which I watched all of and was a big fan of, and is definitely a show you should check out. Wonderful, just a fun musical comedy kind of show. I have two things on here that are things I'm going to try to watch later. One is Young Tiger, is a Jackie Chan movie, which apparently somehow was on my DVD queue at one time and ended up on my watch list. I have no clue how, but I plan on maybe watching that tonight, just because I was like, hey, it's a Jackie Chan movie. Apparently at one point I wanted to watch for some reason, so I'm just telling you, I don't know if it's good or not, but it's there. One thing that is cool is Harold and Lillian, a Hollywood love story. I watched this, I think, one of the times when I do time code, when I do the time code things, you're watching this later on Movie Crap. I watch a movie while it's going on. I watched this one. It's about basically Harold, who is a storyboard artist. So if you're interested in storyboard artists and what they contribute to a lot of big movies, from Hitchcock to Mel Brooks, all this stuff, and Lillian, who worked in the prop department, kind of the history of prop department, basically. Like if you wanted to know like what were props like or what were clothing like in this era, she ran that library department, and like their lives going throughout Hollywood and working on some pretty big movies. It's actually really interesting. I really recommend that. I don't know if I've ever recommended I Am Divine, but I put this in here anyway. It's a great documentary about the life of Divine, so there we go. They also have Scooby-Doo Zombie Island, which I have not seen and probably should see at some point. Maybe I'll review it this October. I don't know if I will. I think it's a little too scary for Sophie, but I might watch it at some point. But it is on Netflix. They also have The Roommate, which is a really bad B movie starring Blake Lively and girl from Friday Night Lights, I think, who might have dated Derek Jeter. It's basically about someone who has a crazy college roommate. It is a bonkers movie. It's fun to get drunk to. I actually recommend. That's a fun, so bad it's good movie. They have the original Mad Max, which is, I think, the problem with the original Mad Max, it's a classic movie that its sequels kind of overshadow it between Fury Road and The Road Warrior. It's definitely like below those two, but it's not. Thunderdome's like, I mean, we're all beyond Thunderdome, but Mad Max the original is still really great. It's a great movie still. I still think there's 3 out of the 4 Mad Max movies are absolute classics, and this might be the lesser of the classic ones, but it's still really great. The Challenger, the Final Flight documentary series, I watched a good portion of that, and it was really good about the Challenger disaster. It's sad, but it's really interesting about everything that went on from what happened with it to the congressional investigation. I highly recommend that. The Witches, which is on Netflix, the original. I haven't watched it since I was a little kid, so I'm not going to say I can really recommend it or remember it other than being scared by it, but it's there. Maybe I'll watch it and review it at some point. I did watch The Babysitter, the McG horror movie. That movie's like weird because it's like about basically like a guy who's in his 40s, what he thinks a babysitter would be like for kids nowadays. That totally doesn't work, really. It's sort of just a dumb horror movie that it's like sort of silly. I don't know. I don't really recommend it, but that's kind of my take on it, I guess. Cape Fear is on Netflix as well, the Martin Scorsese one. They do not have the original. I like the original too, but Martin Scorsese's is great. And then finally, because it's Halloween, it has Poltergeist, which is a classic horror film that you should definitely see. It's wonderful. It has Craig T. Nelson, Mr. Incredible. And it's the most Spielberg-y produced movie that Spielberg definitely didn't direct from what I've read. Anyway, so let's cut to SinRam, who is now going to talk about his recommendations on what to watch on Netflix.
Hey, what's up? It's Scott, and today I'd like to talk about Netflix recommendations for October of 2020. Jim has invited me once again to join him on the live stream for his Netflix recommendation section. I'm only too happy to oblige. It feels like I was here just a couple of weeks ago, but it's cool. New month. More Netflix recommendations for quarantine viewing. There's an exclusive film that just premiered a couple weeks ago called Enola Holmes. Don't know why I haven't been using the index cards like I used to all the time. This seems like the perfect opportunity to use them. Enola Holmes is the creation of an author named Nancy Springer, who wrote a whole series of books about Sherlock Holmes's teenage sister, who goes out and solves mysteries of her own. Sherlock Holmes is also a character in this story. As it begins, Enola has been living with her mom, pretty much all her own, being trained by her in a lot of different skills and history, doing a lot of reading. But when her mother disappears, her other older brother Mycroft, has been assigned to be her guardian, and he wants to send her to finishing school, which is the last thing that she wants. So she escapes in the middle of the night and goes out and goes to London, starts solving mysteries. It's a very fun movie. It's very upbeat. It's very energetic. She spends a lot of time speaking straight to the viewer, which is a lot of fun. Millie Bobby Brown, of course, plays Enola. She's terrific. I haven't really seen Stranger Things at all, but she's very winning in this, and I can see her very easily having a career like Emma Watson. Also, Henry Cavill plays Sherlock Holmes, and Sam Claflin, I believe that's how you say his name, he played Finnick in The Hunger Games. He plays Mycroft, and Helena Bonham Carter, plays their mother. It's a fun mystery. It's a fun little movie. I really enjoyed it. An indie film that you might be aware of. Sorry. I gotta separate these cards right here. The One I Love. It's called The One I Love. This is a movie that has sort of a weird sort of supernatural twist to it. The main characters are Mark Duplass and Elizabeth Moss. They're a couple. They're in counseling, and their therapist says, hey, I have a cabin out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. It's very beautiful there. Why don't you go there for a few days? Just the two of you reconnect as a couple. So that when they get there, they find that there's actually another sort of little cottage very close to where their house is that they're staying. It's on the same property, and they decide to check it out. But when they do, each of them discovers kind of a clone of their partner. So when Elizabeth Moss goes there, she finds Mark Duplass is there already, except that it's not really him. It's like an idealized version of him. And when Duplass goes there, he finds an idealized version of Elizabeth Moss. And each one of these like duplicates is like very, very they're very generous, I guess you could say. They fill all of their needs and wants, basically. And so it becomes kind of a weird situation. What do they do with this extra person, this replica that they each have? Very, very bizarre. Charlie McDowell is the director. He is the son of Malcolm McDowell, and he also did a film on Netflix called The Discovery with Robert Redford, which is also pretty interesting. If you're interested in supporting very, very indie films that have nobody in it that you've ever heard of before, but have interesting stories and characters, Good Kisser is a good suggestion. I think Wendy Jo Carlton is the director. I've actually met her a couple times. She screened a couple of her films in Chicago over the years. I got to chat with her a little bit. This is a movie about a same-sex couple. Their names are Jenna and Kate. They go to this woman's house because they are considering adding her to their relationship, becoming a throuple, as they say. The movie takes place over the course of basically just one night, just in this one house. You can tell just how low budget it is because their rideshare driver that they take to get there is the same one going back after the night is over, the exact same driver. That's how small the cast is, how low the budget is. But it's a really good film, and I would recommend it to anyone who's interested in supporting this kind of small, very small scale cinema. It just happens to be on Netflix, which is a great deal for them. Lots more exposure. If you're looking for silliness and laughs and nothing serious whatsoever, you could do a lot worse than The Naked Gun. Leslie Nielsen is the main character. He plays Lieutenant Frank Drebin. And Leslie Nielsen at this point had been in a lot of comedies after having a career as a sort of a serious, stern-faced actor, which is perfect for the deadpan humor that's in a lot of these films like this, parodies like Top Secret and Airplane. One of the guys that created those movies, David Zucker, is the director on this. Leslie Nielsen is this cop, and he's got a mystery to solve involving assassinations, people being turned into assassins by some sort of radio signal. But it's all very, very silly. There's tons of sight gags and jokes. It's a parody basically of cop movies, and it's a riot, and you definitely should give it a chance if you haven't already. Ricardo Montalban, who played Khan in the original Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, he is the villain in this. Plus appearances by Reggie Jackson, John Houseman, and Weird Al Yankovic. You can't go wrong. And finally, one of the greatest movies ever made, and a personal, lifelong favorite of mine, is on Netflix right now. Back to the Future. Time travel. Gotta love it. One of the greatest screenplays ever written. Actually, this movie came out when I was about 12, and I hadn't really considered that a person actually sat down and planned the entire story out in advance. It just wasn't something that I thought about. But after seeing this movie, I go, oh, somebody really put their brain to work and making all this stuff work. It's really incredible. It's a really fun story. It's very clever and exciting. All the dialogue has double and triple meanings depending if you're watching it the first time or if you've seen it before and understand what's about to happen as well as what's already happened. It's just one of the most clever movies ever made. Michael J. Fox, if you're not familiar with the story, I'm sure you are, but if you're not, Michael J. Fox is a teenager who accidentally gets sent back in time to when his parents were teenagers, and his mother thinks that he's really cute and wants to date him, and he's like, no, you have to get together with my father or I won't exist. In the 80s, Leah Thompson is his mother. Crispin Glover is his father. Christopher Lloyd is the inventor of the time machine. And you'll also probably recognize Billy Zane from Titanic as one of the bad guys in the movie. There's a character named Biff, played by Thomas F. Wilson, who's sort of the antagonist to everyone right there. It's a very, very clever, very delightful movie. You can't go wrong with something like this. It's just, especially if you like science fiction and time travel movies and with really clever, intricate plots. Made me a lifelong fan of time travel stories, that one for sure. Those are my 5 recommendations. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks again to Jim for having me on again. Back to you, Jim. Take it away.
Thank you very much, SinRam. That was great. Those were wonderful suggestions. And I like the painting, and thank you. I like this, take it away. Anyway, those were great suggestions. Anyway, you should subscribe to SinRam's channel. He's a great friend, and he makes some great content as well. Yeah, those were some stuff to watch on Netflix if you're looking for something to watch during these quarantine times. We give you a lot of great suggestions, so check out that. The list will be in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to SinRam's channel and go check that out, as well as subscribe here and comment below a Netflix recommendation that you would like for people to watch as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and see you later.